Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here. Before we get into today's video, just a reminder that I do have a Patreon now set up. If you wish to support the channel, please go check out that link in the description down below. All the funds there will go to, of course, purchasing premium ships to review, buying doubloons to convert, XP into free XP to reset lines, to get Research Bureau ships like the Paulo Emilio, the Ohio, the Slava, so forth and so on. Those ships are insanely expensive to reset lines if you don't want to grind through them about 6 or 7 times, which I don't have the time to do that with my full-time job and get those reviews out on time. So anyway, if you do want to support the channel that way, please go check out the link in the description below. And again, I'm not saying I'm a starving YouTuber or anything, but if you wish to help out, go ahead and check out that link. Otherwise, if you don't have the money, don't worry about it. Just watch the video. That helps as well, of course. Anyway, today's topic, we're talking about, is Brawling dead? It's a question that I get asked a lot, and quite simply the answer is no, it's not. It's not really fantastic right now, the Brawl. There's a lot of things going on in game that are definitely, well, let's just say prohibitive toward Brawling, like the introduction of more and more sniper BBs like the Slava, the Champagne, and the Florida, and of course the entire new line of U.S. battleships. That whole split is sniper based, so those are more battleships that are going to be sitting in the back. But I mean, there's so many things we could talk about what's the biggest thing preventing Brawling from happening as often as it used to. I mean, good God, the CV rework, the increase of radar ships, the increase of, again, sniping ships, the increase of HE spam. HE spam has gone absolutely through the roof. Back in the day, back in 2016, 2017, the worst thing about HE spam was like the Des Moines, which the Des Moines doesn't even touch the fire rate of some of the ships that have been introduced recently, like the Colbert, the Rugamo, the Wooster, the Smolensk. I mean, good God, those ships all make Des Moines look like an amateur. But again, back in the day, Des Moines and Khabarovsk were some of the worst HE spammy ships in the game. And look how far we've come now. So all these factors lead to players not wanting to push anymore, which of course leads to less and less brawling. But there are still plenty of opportunities in today's World of Warships where you can still get into a nice brawl, and why builds like full secondary builds on German battleships, I'm talking about all the way full secondary builds on German battleships, are still viable in my opinion. Of course, when you aren't in those situations, you will suffer much more today than you would have back in 2016, 2017, but you can still totally brawl today. I mean, I still do it. It's not like, you know, it's some super rare occurrence that happens. You just have to kind of bide your time now, wait toward the end of the match, and then you can go for it once you know there's less of those ships around, like the Smolensk and the Rugamo and the Wooster, because those ships, even as annoying as they are, they rarely make it to the end of the match because of their armor. I'm not saying, you know, it never happens. I'm just saying more often than not, they tend to not survive because, let's be honest here, who isn't ticked off when they see a Smolensk on the enemy team, especially when it's targeting you? I know I am, and I know just about every shell that I can fire, unless I got a broadside like Yami right in front of me, is going toward that little smoke cloud that Smolensk is in, because I want him dead, and so do the 2 other battleships on my side, so do the cruisers, and so do the destroyers. They all want him dead. So you just have to kind of play it safe and, you know, bide your time in the back, take a couple of pot shots in the back of the pack, and then as the game progresses and as it goes on, you can then start to push in and get in close, and then, you know, use ships like the Ohio, the Kurfürst, the Odin, the Tirpitz, the Bismarck, the Gneisenau. That you guys know what I'm saying. You just have to kind of bide your time now, because back in 2016, 2017, you could kind of be a little bit more aggressive and get away with it back then, because again, all these ships didn't exist back then, and again, CVs weren't what they are today back then either. They were, well, worse in some ways, better in some back then, but you guys get what I'm saying. Plus, there was barely any CVs around back in 2016, 2017. But anyway, what I'm really concerned about in terms of is Brawling dead is that, not right now, but the future. Because we have a lot of really big changes coming in the future of World of Warships. First off, which is probably the most pressing toward this issue, is the Commander rework. Now, the Commander rework is going to change a lot about the game, a whole lot about the game. It's literally changing one of the core mechanics of this game. And one of the bigger changes is coming to secondaries. Now, secondaries aren't necessary for brawling, but they sure do help out, and they are one of the more compelling factors to move forward, because especially with German battleships, I want to get into secondary range. I want to get my awesome secondaries to work. And with the Ohio and the Massachusetts too. And range is getting improved. If you guys haven't read the spreadsheet that the devs put out some time ago about the changes to captain skills, but manual fire for secondaries is getting a bit of a change to where now secondaries will fire on both sides at all times, but you will get a boost to the side that the ship that you selected is on. But it's not as big of a boost as it currently is. It's only something like, I think it's a 40% boost. So that's 20% less of a boost in a skill that's still a 4-point skill. So that's a lot to invest in. And yes, you do get both sides of your secondaries going all the time. And this really won't be that big of an issue to ships like the Massachusetts and the Ohio and the Georgia, because their secondaries are already insanely accurate in the current game, to where you really could probably get away without taking manual fire for secondaries in Massachusetts, Georgia, and Ohio, but taking them does turn it into an absolute laser which no DD can survive, which is why myself and so many others take it. But the Germans, on the other hand, German secondaries without manual fire for secondaries are pretty insanely inaccurate. And they're still good if they hit, but you will have no protection from destroyers, basically. They can still get away with it, against other battleships and heavy cruisers, but light cruisers and destroyers are realistically anything smaller-ish to small, like let's say like small links down to DDs, are going to be pretty hard to hit with these secondaries. Now, like I said, their range is being increased by a bit. You'll be able to get the German secondaries for the tier 8 and above ships out to about 13 kilometers, which is a lot. But the big question that I have is, and many other people that I've talked to have, is, are we going to get a boost to the secondary accuracy on the German battleships? What's the dispersion at that range going to be? Is it increasing, or is it going to stay the same as is? Because, if it stays the same as is, and getting another 2 kilometers of range in order to sacrifice about 30 to 40% of your secondary accuracy with the skill, that's not that bad of a trade-off. But if the dispersion is going to be increased even more, then it may not be worth it. And that's one of those factors that encourages you to push in. And if that gets really gipped for the Germans, then that's one of their main attractions of the line too. That's one of their main characteristics. One of their biggest strengths is their secondaries. So when I initially read through the Commander rework spreadsheet, I wasn't too turned off by this, because it's still a long way out, and it still is. And I have no belief that they are just going to release it as is. I do believe there's going to be a whole lot of tinkering. There's going to be a whole lot of changes. And I really can't see them doing this to the German battleships without improving their accuracy by a little bit, at least. At least maybe another 10 or 15% to the built-in accuracy of the secondaries would be very much nice. And I understand, you can't have manual fire for secondaries levels of accuracy. Well, current manual fire for secondaries levels of accuracy out at 13 kilometers. I understand that, but it would be nice that, once you got back into about that 11 kilometer range, that the accuracy would be representative of something close to today's accuracy. And again, having the other side firing at the same time, that's, I like that too, but I still personally just prefer being able to focus my secondaries down on one target at a time and focus on melting that guy. Because again, if you have secondaries firing on both sides, it's going to encourage either people staying back further, because now you have them out to about 13 kilometers and both sides are firing, or people are going to kind of just Oonga Boonga into 5 ships, which, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times when Oonga Booging is 100% acceptable, but at the start of the match, just going, oh, my secondaries will fire on all sides now, so I can take on these 5 ships at once. I'm an aggressive player. I won't deny that, but that's a bit too much. So that's one issue that I have. The other issue is submarines, of course. As we saw on the playtest of submarines, there was a lot of, well, first off, there's a lot of submarines for one, and I was told that they did say that they are going to limit subs to about 2 per side, which I think that'll help out a lot, but I couldn't find it anywhere officially, so if anyone knows wherever that was spoken, please let me know in the comments down below and I'll pin your comment. But if you participated in the playtest of submarines on the live server, you knew that there was a lot of passivity going on, especially with, there being like friggin' 4 submarines per side. No one really wanted to stray from the group, and if they did, they of course just got torped by the submarines. And they're making a lot of changes to submarines, into the mechanics, into the ASW capabilities of heavy cruisers and battleships, so that's a good step in the right direction. But again, this is another factor that's going to lead to more passive play, to more people sitting in the back, and it's not like matches are lasting very long nowadays. It's not uncommon at all for matches to end in about 7-8 minutes nowadays, which is just under half the time of the battle timer. And I'm not saying every game needs to go to like the 20-minute mark, but I would at least expect most games to last at least 13-14 minutes. At least that's for sure what it felt like back in the day in 2016, 2017, 2018. I'm not saying 6-7 minute matches never happened back in the day, but back in the day it used to be like, oh wow, that game only lasted 6 minutes. Dang, that team did a lot wrong, and you would move on. But nowadays it's just like, oh yeah, another 6-minute game, another 7-minute game. It's not rare anymore, and like I said at the start of the video, you need that time for the battle to progress to be able to push in now with battleships, because you can't push in as earlier anymore, because you're going to get focused down by the HE spamming cruiser, the HE spamming DD, or the HE spamming / sniping battleship in the back, or the CV all at once. Of course, you couldn't do that back in the day. I'm not talking about rushing in the first 2 minutes, but I mean, back in the day, once you were pretty confident that your team had the other flank secured, you could go ahead and push in. Or not that your team had the other flank secured, but that you were on your team's strong flank and the enemy team's weak flank. You could go ahead and push in, even only having a 1 or 2 ship advantage. But teams just won't push nowadays, even when you have a 2 to 1 ship advantage, because they know, hey, that small instant over there that's one of the 2 ships on the flank, he can melt me down way before I even get to him. Way before I can even spot him, he can melt me down. It's not just a small lens. There's several ships like this, and this isn't the only factor, but this is for sure one of the biggest factors that I at least think of when I'm pushing, because I think, okay, I can push right now, but that small lens, if the team doesn't take care of it, I'm going to be dead before he's even detected, because I gotta either get within his smoke firing penalty range, or I gotta assure detect him from 2 kilometers. By that time, I'm going to need his torpedoes anyway, but with any smoking HE spamming cruiser or DD, it's like that. Is it worth the sacrifice? And with the way that teams are now, a lot of battleship players are just saying no. So lobbing in more factors that will encourage more passive play is just going to make the situation worse. And will Brawling be completely dead after Submarines and the Captain rework come out? No, of course not. It won't be completely dead, but if Wargaming doesn't do this right, the game's going to be incredibly passive. So they need to do this right, which is why, like when the submarine patch notes came out, when the changes came out, my bad, I was very supportive of them, because yeah, these are good changes. They were good changes that needed to happen in order to balance the game. And the Commander rework, honestly, I like the idea, but it needs to be handled in a proper way and not a rushed development like the CV rework. We are seeing some encouraging signs from the submarines being added in. They are taking their time with them. I don't think they're going to come out before 2021. I sure hope they don't. We haven't even gotten the second round of playtesting yet, so it doesn't look like they will, at least in my mind. But that's where my concern about Brawling is, because right now it's still completely fairly common. You know, again, when matches that end in like 6 or 7 minutes, it's, you know, it just doesn't happen. But it's still here, and it's still fairly healthy right now. There's a lot of annoyances when trying to do it, like I said, with the HE spamming, the CV rework, and radar, and several other issues, but it's still here. It's not like it's dying out in the current World of Warships, but in the future, if these two major additions to the game don't get handled right, and Wargame doesn't back off on introducing a lot of more of these HE spamming cruisers and sniping battleships, then yeah, we might have some problems within another year or so of the game. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for today's video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. This is a question I just got asked a lot on Discord and a lot on stream and in the comments section too. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, if you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out the Patreon. That link is in the description down below as well. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday. Oh, the winner for the contest, the giveaway contest from 1 week ago, has been selected. But as of me recording this, they haven't responded to my messages just yet. So as of me recording this, they have 1 more hour to respond. If they do not respond, I will be selecting another winner and messaging them, and then they will have another 48 hours to respond. Anyway, guys, hope you have a wonderful Saturday. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We are on our way to 20,000 subscribers, and we just passed 18,000 a few days ago, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. That is awesome. It's looking like it's pretty doable for us to get to 20,000 by the end of the year. That would be amazing if we could do that. Anyway, guys, hope you're enjoying your weekend. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to catch you guys in the next one.